For the third year in a row, Radio Televisión Española is bringing all of Spain down to the Valencian coast for Benidorm Fest, and it will decide who will represent the country at this year's Eurovision Song Contest in Malmö, Sweden. Today we're taking a look at who might be among the top contenders for 2024, and again I'll be joined by Luis and Fran, who will be sharing a bit of details about the songs, the artists, and what we could be expecting ahead of the semifinals. Now, if we've learned anything from the first two editions of Benidorm Fest, it's that seeing is believing. Neither in 2022 or 2023 were the eventual winners considered likely frontrunners until the semifinals. And because at this point we're just looking at studio versions, it's something to keep in mind because first impressions are just that, first impressions. Out of this year's 16 songs, we're going to be looking at 9 of them in detail, and it's going to be a mixture of songs that are ranking really high in polls or doing really well in streaming charts, as well as a few personal choices of mine. So let's get right to the first one, and we're going to begin with the song that's ranking highest on a lot of polls in Spain.
Brillos, Platino, brillos, Platino, labios mojados de vino y yo muriendo de sed. Brillos, Platino.
Almacor's song has a sound that resembles a lot of the kind of music that's really popular in Spain and landing all over the charts. The style of vocal delivery is very inspired by hip-hop and reggaeton, with the kind of rhythm that it has and the enunciation. The production is very punchy and energetic, and it's lyrically accessible, you know, the feeling of love, being close to someone that you've dreamt about, that kind of thing. Now, for an international audience, that lyrical accessibility might not mean much, but one of the clear strengths of the song is in its hook. It's very easy to remember. You only need to hear the song once and it's already there in your head, which is one of the things that makes this a clear standout.
No hace falta que sepas español para que en la discoteca o allí en el escenario de Malmö te pongas a cantar, te levantes y lo des todo, ¿no? Creo que es una propuesta que invita a bailar, que invita a pasárselo bien, y yo creo que eso al final no entiende de idiomas, ¿no? Se contagia a todo el mundo. Creo que podría ser un exitazo.
Now, when thinking of the criticisms of last year's song being too out there and not accessible, this would seem like the perfect counter to that. And considering how it would fit the party atmosphere of Eurovision, this would seem like a pretty good choice off the bat. But if we're going to consider the past two editions, there's something that we can't forget.
We need to see it live, because that type of genre could have problems, but I think he has done a lot of vocal classes, and I think he could have an amazing performance in Benidorm for sure.
In the past, we've seen songs that were hyped to win fall flat completely by the time we get to the actual stage, and that should be considered a possibility here, considering the kind of song that it is and how it depends on a lot of production and a degree of flashiness. But for now, the best we could say is that we'll have to wait and see what happens in the semifinals, and that's kind of going to be a running theme here. At least we can say that there are high expectations, and if those expectations are met, then I don't really see any reason why this couldn't be a winner.
Porque ahora somos dos extraños. Ahora somos dos extraños.
San Pedro is bringing what's called a bolero, which is a style of ballad that has origins in Cuba, but has spread widely throughout the Spanish-speaking world. There are a lot of people from different nationalities that make this kind of music. Dos extraños means two strangers, but rather than describing two people who have never met and literally don't know each other, it's used to describe the end of a relationship. All of the beauty that was there is now overshadowed by the hardships. And although there was a real meaningful connection there that was based on love for one another and they fought hard to keep it alive, it's all gone now, and so he considers them to be two strangers. It's quite an eloquent way of describing heartbreak, which is obviously a theme that's explored so much in music. And even outside of Spain, it seems that people are really seeing the potential in this song.
Cuando yo escuché la canción, y creo que en general por lo que he podido leer a través de redes sociales y compañeros, colegas, periodistas también del mundo de Eurovisión, ¿no? Creo que todos coincidimos en que la propuesta de San Pedro tiene mucha personalidad. Va a cautivar no solamente al público español, sino también al público internacional por eso, por el carisma de él, por su voz y por la canción tan dulce y tan emocional que lleva.
He has the greatest voice of Benidorm Fest. I think if we bring him to Eurovision, he probably get an amazing result because he has an amazing live performance, and I think that's one of the main important thing of Eurovision.
It's also been interesting to see people compare this song favorably to one of Eurovision's biggest winners, Salvador Sobral from Portugal. I see it as not necessarily being because the songs are musically similar, because they aren't, but rather it's that they both follow distinct musical styles that are considered classic, and they have deeply heartfelt performances at the center of them. It's definitely quite a high compliment. Obviously, comparisons like that also come with a bit of baggage, and I think it would be naive to assume that San Pedro would show up to Eurovision and get just as big of a victory, but I feel as if these comparisons are more positive than anything. This is definitely one that a lot of people are going to be keeping their eye on, and I'm very curious to see how they're going to flesh this out on stage, so one to watch for sure.
I made it, and I'm here to stay.
Sofia Coll is bringing an entry that has Eurofan written all over it. It's up-tempo dance pop with an empowering message, a mishmash of English, Spanish, and Catalan, and unsurprisingly, this is leading a lot of polls in international circles. For Spaniards, one of the biggest draws of the song is how it resembles the early sounds of bands like Fangoria, which Alaska, who hosted the first edition of Benidorm Fest, was a part of, and the other half of that band, Nacho Canut, is actually one of the songwriters on this song, so that's no accident. So in terms of having that balance between local and international appeal, this is definitely a pretty strong candidate. And based on Sofia's experience, it seems like the live performance could have a lot of promise.
Confío mucho en Sofia Coll porque, bueno, aquí en España se la conoce porque participó en La Voz, también participó recientemente en un programa de la televisión catalana en el que pudimos verla bailar, cantar. Entonces, es un artista 360 y creo que puede ofrecer una gran performance. Y yo creo que eso gusta tanto al público nacional como al público internacional.
Now, despite appearing like a likely contender, I think that when we look at the song on its own, it has a hard time dodging certain cliches of music that's made for a gay male audience. And like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it just makes me think about how much potential it could actually have at Eurovision when we factor out the hardcore fan base. If the live show is energetic and it has a creative twist that makes it unmistakable, then this could be a real moment in the show. I just think it needs to be a bigger idea than I'm a diva, I'm unstoppable, so on and so forth, because we get that all the time at Eurovision, and a lot of those songs don't really do as well as expected unless they have an extra element of appeal to it. Nonetheless, we have a strong performer with television experience, and so win or no win, I think that this one is going to leave a mark, without a doubt. María Peláe entered this year's edition as one of the biggest artists to participate. She's normally known for making music that blends pop elements with traditional elements and for having lyrics that are humorous and satirical. With her Benidorm Fest entry, Remitente, she's ditched the humor entirely to make a powerful statement about the fight for freedom. Throughout the song, she makes a number of callbacks to life under the dictator Francisco Franco, the level of poverty, the subordination of women, the people who fought so hard and lost their lives trying to get their freedom back. Now, it's important to stress that this is fairly recent history. The dictatorship only ended in the 70s, and so there are a lot of people who are alive today that lived through it and remember the level of oppression they were facing. And the point being made here is to not take the freedoms that you have right now for granted, to use your voice when you need to. And as she says in the song, for if you turn off your voice, it will be drowned out.
I'm Andalusian. I'm from Seville and I love flamenco. For me, María Peláe's song gives me a lot of goosebumps and it's like an anthem for me. But she has the main problem that a lot of people are comparing their song with the Blanca Paloma song.
Do you think that even if it was clearly like one of the strongest contenders, that people would be reluctant to vote because of what happened last year?
Es algo que creo que puede suceder, ¿no? O sea, hay un sector del público que a raíz de lo que ocurrió el año pasado con la propuesta de Blanca Paloma y EAEA, a lo mejor está más reacio, por así decirlo, a llevar una propuesta de nuevo relacionada con el flamenco, con un estilo musical mucho más español, ¿no? Pero yo creo que en general, no. Yo creo que en general la gente va a valorar que se trata de un artista con con mucho nombre en nuestro país, en nuestra industria musical, y si hace un trabajo excelente, que estoy seguro que lo va a hacer, tiene muchas posibilidades también de ir a Eurovisión. Yo diría que sí, que es una gran competidora.
I'd like to think that what Fran is saying is right, that any reluctance to vote would be minimal, and that if people really feel like this is the song that deserves the win, they'll vote for it. I especially feel that with what's going on right now, all the discussions around human rights and the various wars that are happening, this song feels very timely and it shouldn't be overlooked. And regardless of whether or not this gets the win in the end, I would consider this to be a guaranteed qualifier for the final and one that could very likely land on the podium as well.
Y esa zorra que tanto temía se fue empoderando y ahora es una zorra de poste.
One of the entries this year that is a very clear standout is Nebulossa's. And for context, we've got to get a few things out of the way, so let's go right to our friends from Spain.
Tell me, what does Zorra mean?
Zorra is beach. It's like a beach, but it's amazing because she's a girl with 47 years talking about her own experience working with music and facing every day the same way. If you are a woman, if you are provocative, there's a lot of people say you bitch every time. And it's time to say that's all. And that's the meaning of the song.
Al final, Zorra yo creo que es un mensaje como de empoderamiento, ¿no? De libertad, de ser uno mismo sin que te importe lo que te digan los demás. Con esta canción de Nebulossa, precisamente, van a conseguir que todos digamos que somos zorras, porque al final todos somos libres y cada uno debe ser como quiera sin que le importe lo que le digan los demás, ¿no?
Now, reclaiming a slur to take away its power is not necessarily a new concept, but the appeal, I think, is much bigger than that. It's in the campy nature of the song. It's in the age of the artist who's performing it, someone who has lived the experience of being called a zorra for a lot of their life. And it's also in just how many times they say the word throughout the song. In 2022, we had a giant boob on stage, and in 2024, we have over 40 uses of bitch in the same song in this voice put to this music. Only in Spain. And with respect to the age of the band, Luis also points out that their inclusion in the festival is worthwhile, because it shows that there are people making compelling music who don't fit that ideal model of a young artist fresh out of high school who is chasing all the latest trends. If you have a good song, you have a chance to have a platform. As for how this will do in the festival, in this case we're not talking about artists with quite as much television experience as the ones that we talked about earlier. So there is a question about how effectively this will be performed live and whether or not the professional jury will support it enough to get far. But at the end of the day, it's a song with a lot of character, it's fun, it's having a bit of a viral moment, and so a really solid live performance could be just what they need to get noticed.
Nos miramos tan dulce, comemos despacio, hablan por la espalda, me importa un carajo. Nos miramos tan dulce.
Marlena comes into this selection with some pretty unique ties to Eurovision, and specifically Måneskin. Both bands competed alongside each other in the same season of X Factor Italia, and the name Marlena directly references the Marlena that appears in a lot of Måneskin lyrics, which the band has described as a muse that represents their ideals. As for the song they're bringing, the title translates to Summer Love, which definitely fits the vibe of the track. But they're not just talking about any summer love.
One of them was the girlfriend of Dulceida, one of the most important influencers here in Spain. And their song is dedicated to her because finally they broke. And it's like a lot of Spanish people are listening to the song and are saying, wow, I'm understanding all the song. And it's like there's a lot of gossip thing.
Now, Dulceida is publicly in a relationship with someone else, and so, as you can imagine, these kind of things set the internet on fire. You'll have to look somewhere else for the details of that because gossip isn't really my thing. But when you put together the scandalous story behind the song and the laid-back feel of it, you end up with something that's quite enticing, whether it's because people are living for the drama of it, or if because they have their own summer loves that were messy and they feel like they can relate to it on a level. And so I think this has the potential to be really fun at Benidorm. I think that if they're able to do something that has a playful energy and just the right amount of sass, then this could bring the kind of fun that Noche Entera brought last year. As for whether or not it would win, I kind of see this as being in the same spot as Almacor, where they have something that's very accessible and likely to please, but it really just comes down to what are the other elements that are brought to the stage. So we'll have to wait and see. I do think that this is probably going to be making a pretty strong impact. Angy is coming to Benidorm with a pop rock sound that a lot of people are nostalgic for. And much like we've seen with other kinds of pop rock that have appeared in other national selections, this one is getting a lot of attention internationally, reaching as high as second in some fan polls. Within Spain, she's also not a stranger, having risen to popularity for playing Paula in the teen drama Física o Química.
Angy was like one of the main teen artists of Spain in 2010, and then she started to be a part of a lot of theater shows, and she started to be an actress without singing. She is now again singing, but she's bringing us the same sound she had in 2010. So for people like me, I'm so near 30, so I know a lot of Angy. It's like magical because it's the same sound she has when I have 14.
Her song is also the only one in this selection that includes a kind of secret but not so secret weapon that we see in various national selections, and that is Swedish songwriters. Now, I don't tend to be someone that focuses on the nationality of the songwriters, but I do think that there is a kind of argument that suggests how uniquely Spanish this song is when compared to the other ones that we see. But at the very least, we can say that the Swedes did what they do best, which is give this song a really strong hook, one of the strongest in the selection. And given Angy's experience and popularity, it seems like this is a pretty likely qualifier for the final. When it comes to winning, however, I have my doubts. I think that it's mostly the international fans that are most excited about this because of that appetite for pop rock, but at the very least we can say that the ingredients are there for something competitive, so it's definitely one to watch. Given that this year's songs are mostly up-tempo with dance beats and a party vibe, Yoly Saa is bringing something that is considerably more sentimental. She's of course not the only one because we talked about San Pedro earlier, but hers is decidedly more modern, and a big part of the appeal is in the instrumentation.
For me, it's the best instrumental of all Benidorm Fest 2024. Their instrumental is amazing with a lot of drums, with a very Galician flavor. And the lyrics, she says something like, it's a song of a strong lesbianism. And I think it's great. It's like, I don't know at all what is their meaning, but I fell in love with that type of music, and I'm looking forward to hear it live.
Now, reception-wise, this one tends to land more in the middle than anything than most of the songs that we've talked about here. I'm including it because this is one of my personal favorites. I find that the atmosphere is really compelling. The way that she sings in a delicate and vulnerable way, I really enjoy. And the build of it as well, I find to be really effective. It just ticks a lot of boxes for what I look for in music. Yoly has said that this was one of the songs that came out after a period of writer's block that lasted for over a year. And I thought that was really interesting because I really feel like there's this kind of sense of tension that's being released in the song, especially when we get to the end and the drums are building up and she's repeating the title of the song, No se me olvida, which is I don't forget. There's something very interesting going on there. It's fair to say that this is among the more understated songs, and that sometimes can be a challenge in order for them to stand out, especially considering that there are a number of songs here that are hard hitters that have a lot of visual potential. I obviously am hoping that this will make it to the final, and I think that's probably the best that I can ask for, but who knows? This could have something secret that we have yet to see that will really reach people, and I'd like to think that this could be one that surprises.
Sube honey, mucho pare, que se pare, porque la noche está caliente. Caliente.
Jorge will be a familiar face to people who have seen some of the Spanish selections in the past. He tried to represent Spain at Eurovision in 2009 and 2014, and he said that he was inspired to come back after watching Benidorm Fest and seeing how seriously RTVE was taking it. The song that he's bringing has a strong Latin pop flavor to it, which is a sound that literally everyone can recognize. It also has a number of lyrical cliches that are associated with this kind of music. Dale, sube, señorita, madre mía, the kind of words that anyone can identify as Spanish.
Yo creo que es un poco lo que esperáis de nosotros. Todo el super internacional, España, ritmo caliente, baile, sensualidad, pasión, tal, ¿no? Es como España. España.
Ultimately, these are stereotypes, ones that are not specific to Spanish people from Spain, and admittedly I was reluctant to include it in this video because I wanted to talk mostly about the songs based off of their studio versions. I don't consider this to be anything new or original, but I've included it because, stereotypes or not, it is what the people expect, so there's clearly an appetite for it.
No está mal que sea lo que esperan de nosotros, pero no sé si al final será la canción que gane el Benidorm Fest. Creo que va a ganar con el show, ¿no? Con el espectáculo, que al final es algo también que en Eurovisión, ojo, hay muchas canciones que a lo mejor a primera escucha pues no te entran por lo que sea, pero luego las ves sobre el escenario y dices, uff, wow.
Considering Jorge's performance background and that he's clearly stated that he is in this to win, it's not unreasonable to think that this could be that song, the one that we saw in the last two editions, where the biggest impression that it leaves is when it's on stage. So as much as I have reservations about the song's originality, I also don't think that it should be dismissed. He could very easily deserve the win, so let's see what he brings to the stage. Now, we couldn't get through all of the songs in detail, unfortunately. There are another 7 that also have a chance at winning and doing well, and I'm sure that everybody is going to be wondering who will be the surprises this year, because that's what we've been taught to expect. It's also worth mentioning that there are only 8 spots in the final, which means that one of the 9 songs, at least one of the 9 songs that we talked about today, won't be making it that far and won't actually have a chance at winning. But if we were to think about who could win, even though it's still too early to tell, I suppose there's no harm in speculating. So my hopes are highest for San Pedro first, María Peláe in second, and Marlena third. Let me know in the comments what your favorite songs are this year. Are there other ones that we didn't talk about that you're excited for? And who do you see winning this thing? I want to send a big thank you to Fran and Luis for all of the information and insight that they provided. You can find their links in the description so that you can connect with them as well. And a big thank you to all of you as well for watching. I hope that you subscribe to the channel so that we can keep chatting about Benidorm Fest and other selections that are coming up. And I hope to see you next time. Take care.